Hi, I'm Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round, and I'm out here on my own creepy Nightwatch to talk to you about the new Shudder original movie, Nightwatch Demons Are Forever, a sequel to the 1994 Danish classic, which, fun fact, actually made more money in Denmark than Jurassic Park did in 1994. Nightwatch Demons Are Forever is a strange legacy requel that reminds me a lot of another very, very famous horror franchise, which I'll get into. Um, I liked a lot of what I saw, but it made some very, very strange choices. So before I venture out into the night here and get into some creepy hijinks, let's talk about Nightwatch Demons Are Forever. So the movie picks up roughly 30 years after the events of the first one. And right from the get go, it kind of feels like, did we all see the same first movie? I only say that because we pick up with Martin, played by Nicolaj Coster-Waldau. I hope I'm saying that right. I mean, he's Jamie Lannister to me. And also, here's the point where I'm obligated as a fan of nerd culture to point out that his first movie was called Nightwatch, and then he goes and stars in Game of Thrones, where they have the Night's Watch, and there's a meme there to be made somewhere. Anyways, Martin is like traumatized from the events of the first movie 30 years earlier. And I mean, rightfully so. He and his wife were kind of held at, they were going to be murdered. We find out that his wife, Kalinka, very sadly, how to say this so that YouTube won't. She reenacted the ending of Romeo and Juliet because of the trauma that happened, and right from the beginning, that title, Demons Are Forever, kind of serves as double entendre for the killer returning, but also that lingering trauma. My only issue is, it's very dramatic and it's very serious and very tense, as was the first one. But the first one kind of had that comedic element to it, and I feel like that's lost on us now. I feel like the ending, they were laughing, and I feel like what happened to them in the next few years? Well, apparently they had a daughter, Emma, and she's taking up the mantle of being the night watch person at this morgue. Creepy things start happening again. Um, just for the record, I'm going to keep this as spoiler free as possible. And to answer a question I know a lot of people are asking, do you have to watch the first Night Watch in order to watch Night Watch Demons Are Forever? The short answer is no. The long answer is it's a better experience if you do, because there are returning characters and you do kind of get that context. And the second movie kind of assumes you know the gist of the first one. They make for a great double feature. They're both premiering on Shudder the same day, so why not just watch both one after the other? Anyways, Emma is very curious about, obviously she misses her mother. She feels like there's something that was bothering her that she didn't know about. She kind of starts digging into old newspaper articles and finds, something really did go on all those years ago before she was born. And here's where the movie starts to lose me is it's interesting and it's cool to pick up with, Jamie Lannister, sorry, Martin, all these years later. Nicolaj Coster-Waldau, great actor. I've only ever seen him act in Game of Thrones. It's cool to kind of see him act in his native Danish language. But he just seems like a totally different person than he was in the first movie. And I don't like the fact that it's Emma's own fault that, like, it's her own curiosity about something that makes that something happen. It's very, to compare it to another horror film, it's very Jason Lives, where it's like Tommy Jarvis wants to make sure Jason's dead, but accidentally resurrects him. Well, she's curious about the past. She's curious about the detective who was, spoiler alert, was the killer in the first movie, and she wants to. I said I'd keep it spoiler free for this one, not the first one, and she wants to know more about it. But it's her visiting him that kind of sets everything in motion, where you get You kind of get another killer kind of taking up his mantle. So, in a weird way, this movie is very much Halloween Ends. Hear me out. Hear me out. You have this like legacy character who's traumatized by their past. Okay, Halloween 2018. And then you have like this new killer who's like wearing the mask of the old one and taking up their mantle. And it just, I don't know if this movie intended to do this or not. It very much goes Corey Cunningham. The difference being it doesn't have that giant franchise in between. And the killer from the first movie does not have the same legacy as Michael Myers. So, in a strange way, while it is very derivative of Halloween Ends, again in the tone of a Danish, Giallo esque, murder mystery slasher, um, it kind of works better here because it doesn't have all that baggage. The biggest issue people had with Halloween Ends was like it was supposed to be the end of the Blumhouse trilogy. It was supposed to be the end of the Laurie Strode saga, and people were like, why didn't you introduce Corey Cunningham later if he's going to play such a big role? You had so many fans kind of with their own biases and their own wants to see what the movie would do. Whereas here, this is just a legacy sequel to one movie. So it's not like this movie had to retcon or ignore the continuity of a bunch of other movies. It's just this and the first movie from 1994. So, in a very strange way, because it doesn't have a lot of baggage and because it's not a major popular franchise with, 10 plus entries, it kind of works to this movie's benefit. And the story here kind of works. I dig the idea of, you know, demons are forever. That's our subtitle, but it's our central theme that evil lives on, evil can be passed on. And we see with Emma and her father Martin, the trauma can be hereditary and generational. But then we also see with the killer and some stuff we find out that being a killer can also be hereditary and generational. So that was a really, really cool concept that I wish the movie hadn't spent like 40 to 50 minutes waiting to get to. I think you could have had, because basically the inciting incident really doesn't happen until almost, halfway through the movie. And I think had that happened much earlier, you could have done a lot more with its jam-packed final 20 minutes where they're throwing plot twists, they're throwing all kinds of revelations. And I think that needed more time. And if you had just gotten to that inciting incident way earlier, you could have done more with that later, if that makes sense. So I think it makes for a really good double feature. I never even heard of these movies before, but I really, really enjoyed it for what it was. As far as Shudder movies go, I know they can be hit or miss. I know the foreign ones can be hit or miss. But I think this is a hit. And while it's not a perfect movie, and I do have issues with it, I respect the kind of auteur, uh, you know, mind behind it. I respect that, this is just one guy's vision. And I respect that, again, whether it intended to or not, it kind of took the worst thing about Halloween Ends and made it work a little bit. So, as far as European murder mystery slasher Giallo-esque movies go, Nightwatch, Demons Are Forever. It's a decent watch. I I enjoyed it. Well, I'm pretty sure I just saw a dead body moving over there, so I have to go deal with that. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of this movie? Like, share, subscribe to all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may end up stuck in a morgue on the overnight shift where creepy things and serial killers happen. And as always, every day is Halloween.